all new Venom is full of so many wonderful surprises, Because during this time that MJ is bonded, or really fused, to the Venom symbiote, in one way you can say that it's causing the both of them to change. And depending on who you ask, it might be for better or for worse. But in some cases, I think this is causing them to see some things very clear. Like for example, when it's time to get people out of here. So let's talk about it. But first, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so when I last talked back in issue 7, this ended with a staged fight between all new Venom and Flash Thompson in front of the Daily Bugle. And like we saw, this is something that Flash came to MJ about, they planned it out, but with how it actually played out, with MJ impaling Flash, this was perhaps the best performance of her career, because they're definitely getting the point across. But I think there's more going on with MJ here, but regardless of how you see it, this definitely sold the idea to Ripcord and the others that Flash would do whatever it takes to stop the all-new Venom. And also back over at North Brother Island, with Sleeper trying to use Rick Jones, the Sleeper agent, to sneak in and pull off a jailbreak, this ended up going south really fast, because the Sleeper symbiote didn't account for Otto Octavius to even be here, which complicates things quite a bit, to say the least. And now with Otto having Rick Jones in this lab for some time, we come back with Otto saying something is happening and you don't know what it is. Do you, Mr. Jones? And Otto goes on to say here, well, let's not keep you in suspense, so to speak. You've been under symbiote remote control. An entity called Sleeper got into your brain and piloted you around like a little, and Rick's just like, Sleeper agent? So for a moment, Otto's like, is that the official name? It's rather good. And he goes on to tell Rick that he used an ultrasonic pulse to remove the symbiote bonded to him. And now that he knows that Rick has some recollection of the time that the symbiote was on him, he asks Rick how much does he remember? And Rick tells him everything, until the little creep blanks me out again. Once you've been a Hulk, stretches of time when you can't remember anything are scary, Doc. Scarier than being upside down in a secret lab even. And as Rick continues, he mentions at least now he knows what's going on. Because for Rick, it really wasn't until issues 4 and 5 in All New Venom when he found out that he was being used by the Sleeper symbiote. And even after Rick had found out, there were still times where he would black out because Sleeper would just take over. But ever since, he had at least been made aware of what was going on, and this opened the opportunity for Rick to actually use the symbiote himself, which is something that Sleeper allowed for a specific reason, and we'll get back to that. But in the here and now, Rick goes on to tell Otto that for a moment this whole situation had Rick believing that he was the all-new Venom, only for Otto to stop him right there and say, I have one rule, Jones, no secret identity talk. Which of course this has Rick like, I'm gonna need you to unpack that, big dog. And Otto doesn't have to, but he does, because he likes to hear himself talk. And Otto says here, yes, I suppose I do. We have that in common, after all. Lost time. You see, until recently, I had knowledge of Spider-Man's secret identity, who's under that ridiculous mask. But I only knew that from context clues in the few memories I retained from that time. The rest was edited out, deleted, by my own hand, Jones. And right here, this is Otto referencing the Superior Spider-Man saga, and more specifically Superior Spider-Man Volume 3, Issue 8, which is like your big finale titled Superior Spider-Man No More. Because after Otto gave Peter his body back, with him trusting Peter to save his love interest, Anna, he later went on to make a deal with Mephisto that would restore Otto to his original body, as well as restoring his mind back to old school Otto. And in Volume 3, this led to a huge mix-up where Estrella Lopez, Supernova, she went after Peter believing he was Superior Spider-Man, with her not knowing that anything had changed. And when Otto was watching Spider-Man using his Octoid drones, he saw him remove his mask, and as soon as he saw Peter's face, all the memories from his time as Superior Spider-Man came rushing back. And this led to a whole thing where Supernova kidnapped Anna so that Peter would bring her Spider-Man, so Peter and Otto teamed up to make sure she was safe. While in the background, Bailey Briggs, who was injured in the previous fight with Supernova, he made his way out to Oscorp Plaza to try and help, only to run into Octavius' spiders, who soon after attacked him, transforming Bailey into the Superior Spider-Boy. But even after Otto and Peter saved Anna, Otto still had plans for Supernova, because he wanted to sacrifice her to create this self-sustaining energy source. And I mean, during that time, she also asked him to explain the whole Superior Spider-Man thing, and he did, because Otto likes to hear himself talk. And it was around this time when we found out what was building up in the background with Bailey, the Superior Spider-Boy. Because it was here where Otto was approached by a ton of villains who had also been affected by his spiders, to where starting from Bailey Briggs, and to Otto's surprise, a superior hive mind was created that connected to people all across the city who would all answer to him. So Otto was like, why stop here? So he then made plans to spread this out to the whole world. And when Superior Spider-Boy was like, we need a huge power source, Otto was just like, I already got that. And now as far as this coming down to Otto choosing to give up his memories, this happened while Peter was freeing Supernova, where he also then needed to fix everyone's mind and get rid of Otto's brain patterns. But then Otto was like, the last thing I want is everybody to be thinking like you. And it was this choice that led to Otto reversing the effect, which then caused him to lose his memories of Spider-Man's identity once again. And I mean, I'm skipping a lot of stuff for the sake of time, but hopefully this adds a little bit more context. But I also want to add on to this, the reason why Otto had this heroic moment at the time. It was mainly because Anna had tricked him into believing that she was affected by the spiders too. So when he made this decision to revert everything back, Otto was more so concerned about Anna than everyone else. And she knew if Otto bought into her facade, then he would do anything to make it right. And I say all of this to add a bit more context to what's going on here because as of right now, Otto, he doesn't remember. Not all of the details at least. Because when he tells Rick that he knows that he did this by choice or by his own hand, he goes on to say, why, I don't know. But whenever I learn that secret, it sends me inexorably into catastrophe and failure. A failure so immense that I have to wipe my own mind simply to function. It's now happened twice, which again, this is Otto letting Rick know, not just the reason behind his rule of no secret identity talk, but also how he knows very well what it's like to be missing huge portions of his memory, which leads to Otto saying, I've learned my lesson, try to kill with the mask on. So Rick tries to pull a fast one on Otto by telling him, okay, that sounds like a good idea, why not put my mask back on? Referring to the symbiote, only for Otto to basically tell him, yeah, nice try. And he tells Rick, like, you don't count, you're not a hero, you're a useful tool for an imprisoned cat. Which are hurtful words. But from here, Otto just plans to do a vivisection on Rick so he can study his brain, I guess, while Rick is watching. And after this, we go over to Sleeper, who's like, oh dear, I messed up. Because again, Sleeper was piloting Rick for the whole jailbreak, so he explains to Toxin here how he thought that a Sleeper agent was just going to be able to walk right in and get them out, only for a Sleeper agent to run into an additional human that Sleeper didn't account for. And then he's like, oh yeah, and Rick's going to get killed. That's bad too, obviously. And I mean, he's so calm about it. But Toxin goes off because he's like, yes, when hosts die, it's very bad. It's the worst thing. What are we gonna do, Sleeper? So Sleeper says here, I have a Hail Mary play, as the humans would call it. I am the only known symbiote who can work over distance. That means long distance communication with my own symbiote substance. So if I abandon the Sleeper agent construct, can I communicate with symbiote substance close to my own? Can I talk to the family? Which now takes us back over to Dylan and the others at the Daily Bugle. And keep in mind, at this point, Dylan still doesn't know who All New Venom is. But after seeing Venom take out Agent Anti-Venom, Dylan's just like, this guy's hardcore. And again, in this moment, MJ, she's really selling it. Because All New Venom goes on to say here, come on, don't all step up at once. I just stabbed Agent Anti-Venom right through the chest. Doesn't anyone want to be next? Doesn't anyone here want to die? And of course, both Robbie and Paul, who both know that MJ is All New Venom, but they didn't know about MJ and Flash's plan, let alone that MJ was capable of going this far. Both of these guys are shocked, and I mean everyone here is, really. And it leads to a moment where Paul slips up and he says, what did she do? And Dylan hears this, so he's like, wait, what do you mean she? And soon after, to everyone's surprise, when Flash starts to get back up, one of the Scar agents, codenamed Slice, he's like, whoa, Thompson's alive. So he tells the squad leader Ripcord that they need to get this guy some medical attention. Only for her to be like, nope, we finished the job, as she continues to go after Venom. And it's a pretty crazy moment because Heater, the other Scar team member, she tells Ripcord, protocol clearly states that if a squad team member is critically injured, we retreat. Flash needs help. And Ripcord's just like, nah, Flash is a symbiote sympathizer who was always more trouble than he was worth. And Ripcord's just like, screw protocol, burn them both, which is a wild thing to say. Even with us knowing why she has a chip on her shoulder after what happened to her brother Jack Carson, aka Spearhead, who we initially saw in the Venom series, but even still, this is cold-blooded. And when Paul hears this, he just runs out there. He gets in front of Venom and he's like, stand down right now. But he does make a point trying to tell Scar that they're endangering everyone here by having this crazy battle out in the open, which then just leads to Venom leaving and the Scar team going after them. And most definitely leaving Flash behind, which again is messed up, because for most people it also looks like the Scar team had left Flash for dead. But Flash ends up approaching Paul here and letting him know that he's not dead. And he says here just hurting a lot. The anti-venom suit is a wearable healing factor. As long as I'm not dead, it can restore me how it found me. But we had to make it look good. So right there, that's two things, because one, since Venom War, Flash has been restored to his human body, so now these crazy injuries are way more risky for him. And number two, with Flash saying this to Paul, he's literally admitting that him and MJ staged this fight. And when Robbie overhears the two of them talking about it, he's basically like, hey, y'all need to keep it down, because you never know who's listening. And really, just based on what Robbie's heard already and what he's seen, at this point, he's put together that this whole thing's been staged. And when he asks Flash and Flash confirms it, Robbie's basically like, come on, man, there's only so much I can do to turn a blind eye. So Robbie tells Flash and Paul here that there's a limit. So he tells them here, yes, our mutual friend is a friend, but if helping her risked bringing down the Bugle, that would leave me no choice at all. So tread carefully. Which is a very similar statement to what he told MJ and Paul when we found out MJ is all new Venom, because Robbie wants to help protect them, but that protection can only go so far. And it's kind of funny because when Robbie leaves, Flash is like, well, it's official. Robbie's disappointment feels worse than a spike through the heart. And then Paul's like, how about mine? And Flash doesn't even respond to anything Paul says here, which basically means that he doesn't care about Paul's disappointment. And then next up, Dylan comes through, and he's mad at both Flash and Paul, because Dylan feels like Flash is a traitor for making a deal with Scar and working with them. And in the case of Paul, Dylan's always hated Paul. And there's a moment here where Dylan asks Flash, how's that deal with the devil working out for you? And Flash is like, how's it working out, kid? Are we forgetting that you'd be in jail if I didn't do this? And Dylan's like, at least people in jail are honest. And man, right there, I can only imagine what's going through Flash's mind. But also for Dylan, he feels like this was all some cruel joke, like everyone was just laughing behind his back, since they knew all knew Venom's identity, and out of the group, he was basically the only one who didn't. And without any warning, Dylan gets a message from Sleeper, with it saying North Brother Island now. So Dylan tells Flash that his deal is cooked, and that he needs to get to North Brother Island right now. Because even with Sleeper only being able to get a few words through, the images that Dylan saw, they say so much more. And in the case of All New Venom, the Scar team chases them all the way to Queensboro Bridge, until suddenly Venom's signature just disappears. So Scar team leader Ripcord, she calls off the chase, and she tells the others that they'll head back to base. And that's where Heater's like, well, what about Corporal Thompson? And she's just like, either they got him back to a hospital, or he's dead. Either way, he's not our problem. Right now, my problem is Venom, and we're not going to find it waiting out here. And as soon as they leave, we see the Venom symbiote telling MJ, nice thinking, because at the last minute she had the clutch idea of turning into a submarine to hide from the Scar team underwater just below the bridge. And this makes for a quick but interesting conversation between MJ and the symbiote, with MJ saying here, I do have my moments, but honestly, you're a shape-shifting alien. I don't know why you didn't do this kind of stuff much before I came along. And Venom just tells her, because I didn't think of it. I needed you to have the idea. I'm not an autonomous being, MJ. Everything I know I learned from my hosts, including learning itself. And I gotta say, just going off of that, it has me looking at this whole Venom MJ situation in a completely different light, especially with the decisions that they make with certain attacks. And we'll talk more about that as this continues. But after this, they both make their way to North Brother Island, since Venom got Sleeper's message as well. Cause at this very moment, Doc Ock is ready to drop the top on Rick Jones. But just before he does, All New Venom arrives. And mind you, this is the very first time that Otto is meeting All New Venom. Because prior to this, all he's seen is images and footage. And with Venom now here, Otto's not even mad about it, because to him, this is just an opportunity to cut Venom open and study them up close. And when Otto says here, I'm disappointed, Venom, in the footage I studied, you seemed so agile, but you're just the same burly oaf you always were. As Venom brings out 5 extra arms. And Otto starts counting like, wait, 1, 2, 3, 9 limbs. And he's like, are you trying to hurt my feelings? And Venom's like, no, we're trying to hurt your face, just before grabbing Otto's tentacles and giving him a smack, which really is just an additional display of MJ's creativity with the Venom symbiote. But this only leads to her inexperience becoming her next problem really fast, because she wasn't aware that Otto's tentacles could break up into octoids, where each piece is part of a drone collective under Otto's control. And it completely throws her off her game, because it's just enough to keep her busy until the Scar team gets back. And when they do, Heater catches them with a nasty hit from point blank range, which you could say is a bit much, but at the same time, you can't blame these guys after what they saw All New Venom do to Flash. So yeah, it's pretty clear that they're not taking any chances. But also when the Scar team gets here, Slice is like, wait, is that Dr. Octopus? Isn't he wanted by the police? And Otto's just like, that's an error that's soon to be corrected. If Norman Osborn's crime can be washed clean, so too can mine. And he basically goes on to confirm this with Ripcord, the Scar team leader, where in her case, her answer is basically, yeah, I'm working on it. Cause like we saw before, this is a very sketchy collaboration between her and Otto. And she goes on to say here, those wheels are in motion, Doctor, though I'll want a full report on what's been going on here. But capturing and unmasking Venom will be a big point in your favor. And Otto just stops her right there like, unmasking? I think not. Even a defeated enemy is still an enemy, Commander. And regarding my enemies, I have one rule. they die with the mask on. And with all new Venom weakened here, Otto is ready to start cutting away. So he quickly gets the okay from Ripcord, who really, for Ripcord, she just wants the symbiote and whoever's in it dead. Cause again, for her, it's personal. But just before Otto can get to slicing, MJ grabs one of his Octoids, causing Otto to slice right into it. And because, much like his tentacles, his Octoid drones run right through his nervous system. So for him, this feels like slicing a raw nerve. Like he's in excruciating pain. And when MJ manages to get back on her feet, the first thing she does is free Sleeper, or the Sleeper Agent symbiote, which is part of Sleeper. So now she's not fighting alone. And as soon as the symbiote's free, it goes straight to Rick, who immediately releases a psychotropic gas that at first has Otto like, oh no, I'm ready for this, since he already has a respirator Octoid ready to go. But to his surprise, this gas is absorbed through the skin, and it immediately causes him to hallucinate the terrifying unmasking of Spider-Man. And I mean, we talked about why that's not what he wants, but even still, it's crazy to see how this stops Otto cold in his tracks, at least until the gas wears off. But in the here and now, this creates the perfect opportunity for both Venom and the Sleeper Agent to slip out of the lab and make their way over to Sleeper and Toxin. Because also, and I don't think we've talked about this in a while, but also as it stands, the Toxin symbiote is in really bad shape. So Sleeper tells Venom like, father, it ain't looking good for nephew, because Toxin isn't autonomous like Sleeper. Toxin needs a real host fast. And Sleeper even goes on to say here that this is the whole reason why he made Rick the current Sleeper Agent, with Rick seeming to be the perfect candidate. And so Rick just goes off like, you piloted me for weeks. When was I gonna get a say in this? And it leads to Venom giving Sleeper another speech about taking people's bodies without letting them know, which once again, it's kinda hypocritical coming from Venom. So Sleeper's just like, I'm not sure if this is Venom talking or the new host, because Eddie wouldn't have had a problem with it. And that's where all new Venom's like, well, I do. As someone else walks in the door saying, and so do I. With this person being none other than Flash Thompson, who's finally made his way here to North Brother Island. And for a moment, Sleeper gives Flash a hard time, as if Flash came here to stop the jailbreak. But even still, Sleeper knows that Flash took the deal to protect Dylan, but right now Sleeper's just in his feelings a little bit. And they start to go back and forth, but Venom tells the two of them that this has gotta wait, because the bigger priority is getting these guys out of here. And it's very clear at this point, if Sleeper and Toxin stay, Otto's gonna kill them. And to be honest, Toxin might not even live long enough for Otto to get the chance. So Flash tells Venom, I'm right there with you, but Agent Anti-Venom can't be not in public. And you can tell it's here where Flash comes up with a new idea, because he goes on to say, on the other hand, nobody knows I'm here yet. So if I pull the Anti-Venom right inside me, bury it deep in my cells, then I can be Toxin's host. And at this point, Toxin's basically like, say less my boy, before he just jumps on the Flash. And now this isn't a permanent solution, because Flash has to hold back the Anti-Venom the whole time, and Anti-Venom and symbiotes don't mix. But man, when Toxin jumps on the Flash, the combination of his style with the Toxin symbiote, it looks insanely good. So next, Flash tells Sleeper like, okay, you can let Rick go now. And Rick is like, what? And leave me here with Otto? Nah, Sleeper got me into this and he can help me get out. And Rick looks at Sleeper and he's like, hey, but no more mind control. I mean it. And Sleeper's just like, we'll see. So next, they all make a dash for the exit, because as soon as the Sleeper Agent's gas wears off, Otto and the others are going to be right behind them, or better yet, right in front of them, because they don't get too far before Otto and the Scar team get the drop on them. And after what happened in the lab, the Scar team makes sure to go after the Sleeper Agent first. But when Ripcord tells Heater to take the shot, Rick uses this moment as an opportunity to show Sleeper that he doesn't always have to go straight to mind control, because right after that, Rick knocks out Heater just before he tells Sleeper that's what happens when you give your host some agency, you little creep. Which is kind of hilarious that Rick would just stop in the middle of all this just to get a word in. And already Flash has got Scar's attention, because they want to know who's the new host of the Toxin symbiote. And at first they assume that it's Bren, the most recent host, but he makes sure to let them know that it's not. And while all new Venom is still tied up here with Otto, we get this funny moment where Slice goes after Rick, and Slice tells him like, oh, I've been trained by the best. So Rick is like, oh, really? Because I was trained by Captain America. Were you? Just before he tosses this guy, and Rick is like, oh, guess not. And he just sends this dude flying over to Ripcord as dude slices her cord on the way down, and they both get shocked. But then when Rick goes to help Flash up, they're caught off guard by Otto, who uses an ultrasonic pulse, much like he did before, though now on the tip of each tentacle. But he also notices that it takes a bit more for all new Venom, with Venom being more resistant than the others. But also at one point, Otto's like, this is nothing for him to handle, because he's used to fighting Spider-Man. So Venom's like, oh, you think we're Spider-Man? That's cute. So then Otto says something here that he's going to soon regret, because he's like, you're a little more resistant to ultrasonics than the others, Venom, but not enough. Please, tell me how you are more of a threat than my archenemy. And that's where all new Venom says here, oh, he'd wrap this up in no time. He'd punch you a few times, wrestle your arms, web you for the cops. He'd be kind. We're not Spider-Man. We are Venom. And it's here where they send Venom's head out of their chest and straight into Otto's mouth, making Doc Ock go gawk gawk just before saying, "It's Venom, filling your mouth, doctor. Living symbiote goo, crawling down your throat, into your stomach, your lungs. It's Venom that's going to burst you from the inside." And this allows Flash, Rick, and Sleeper to get free. But I can just imagine Flash being like, "What is that sound?" just before going over to Venom. Because Flash is like, "Hey, that's not you. That's not either of you." Like, don't do it. Not like this. And it just makes me think back to what we just talked about with the Venom symbiote getting these ideas from MJ, because this tactic is cruel and very unusual, borderline diabolical. And I mean, really, between this as well as them impaling Flash, because I'm not sure if that was in the script, but all of these things make it seem like MJ and Venom are changing. Because keep in mind, the two of them are fused at the moment, far beyond your average symbiote bonding with a particular host. So it's quite possible that there could be certain character traits of one crossing over to the other, unintentionally. But in the here and now, when it comes to Otto, all I can say is that this guy has definitely unlocked a new fear. And as they leave, all new Venom warns Otto not to get in their way again. Because just imagine how this would have went if it was just Venom and Doc Ock. But sometime later, we catch up with MJ as she gets back to the apartment. And when she does, something incredible happens. Because as soon as she gets there, Paul's like, "Oh, thank God you're back. Are you okay? What happened?" So she gives him the short version of what went down, and she's like, she's about to grab a shower and head back out, just before asking, "How's Dylan?" So Paul tells her that he's in his room, but the kid put it together and he knows that you're all new Venom. So he's mad at the both of them. But then it's here where Paul asks MJ to stick around for a few minutes because there's something he needs to say, and he's not sure how she'll take it. So MJ's like, "It probably needs saying, Paul. I think we both need it out there. I think it's time." So Paul just lets it all out, and he's just like, "MJ, I haven't been fair to you lately. I've made this whole thing about me, about my feelings. I mean, I don't like that you're bonded to Venom, but it's not like any of us do, right? It's not a situation that you or him asked for. And if it's anyone's fault, it's mine. I created this problem. I tried to do good with unstable magical technology that's only ever been used for bad. I tried to make up for old mistakes, and I just made things worse. I always do." And MJ's just like, "Paul," and Paul's just like, "Please, I need to say it. If you felt you couldn't tell me the truth for whatever reason, that's on me. You needed someone to lean on, and I was, I don't know, a needy mess. But I'm going to change, I swear. I'm going to be the partner you deserve from here on out. I love you, MJ, and I know together we can make this work." And I gotta say, man, the look on her face right now says it all. So Paul just opens his arms and he's like, "MJ? Honey?" But this wasn't at all what MJ was expecting. So that's what she tells him here. And she goes on to say, "So here's my thing. I run away a lot. When my sister was alone raising 2 kids, when she needed me to step up, I ran away. I put myself first. And I never want to do that again. But I still do it. I do it a lot. Not telling you about Venom, that was running away. I knew you were going to freak out, so I just didn't have the conversation. But sometimes you've got to have the conversation, Paul. You've got to rip off the Band-Aid. And sometimes when you think you're not running away, when you think you're sticking it out, powering through, making the best of it, you look down at your feet and you're at full sprint." And right now, Paul is sweating bullets. He's like, making the best of. But MJ goes on to say, "I know, and you went and said all that, and it'd be so easy to just keep running. But that wouldn't be fair to me, would it? Not to you, not to Dylan, not to anybody." And you can tell at this point, Paul knows where this is going, because he tries to tell her, "I could do better. I could be better." Because in this conversation, and really this whole relationship, Paul is at 5 HP, and MJ's got a legendary shotgun pointed right at his dome. So she goes for the crown here by saying, "It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about us. About 2 people and whether that's working. And I wish I could run from that, but I can't. I just can't. Because it hasn't been working now for a long time. I'm sorry, Paul. I'm breaking up with you." So yeah, after what has seemed to be many millennia, MJ's finally dropped Paul. And man, some of you guys know I called this a while back, because we saw signs during the Venom War Spider-Man tie-in when the Venom symbiote was observing this love triangle between Peter, MJ, and Paul. And then back when Paul found out that MJ was all new Venom, when we saw how he reacted to that, I'm surprised MJ didn't wrap this up sooner. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and let me know in the comments, how will you be celebrating this monumental moment? Cause I'll even say I'm not even really hoping for Peter and MJ to get back together. And in a way, I'm more excited for MJ because of everything she said about not running anymore. Cause she's been a track star for quite some time. Like every time I turn around, she's a new character or she's got a new career. So yeah, I really like what she said about not running, and this kind of being the start of that. But as far as Paul, now that their relationship has taken the next step off of a cliff, it would be kind of funny to see this become the beginning of his villain arc, or his most recent villain arc, I should say. But let me know what you guys think. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.